How's your day been? Are you liking the Designathon?
It's cool. Yeah. Had a pretty good talk, I think. So it's chilling.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get all the approvals in for moderation.
Perry, do you work from Canada for Discord, or do you work in the States for Discord?
In Canada. So yeah. Need to relocate eventually. Once I
Abby, I see you're in the session. If you'd want to request for audio and video, get things going over here.
I think my hop-in is glitching. It's like laggy.
Yeah, I think every time we join like a really big session, it gets a little glitchy. I've been having that issue all morning. It has been good over on your ends, Perry and Jordan?
It's good on my end.
Okay, dope. I see we're recording. Nice. Abby, I just approved your request. You should be good.
Abhay, are you having trouble like sharing your audio or video? You can type in the chat, or you can also type on text us on Discord.
Aside from the Designathon, Jordan, you got anything else going on today, or had anything going on in the morning?
Yeah, I was speaking at another event this morning for Simon Fraser University.
So, oh, no way.
Yeah.
So you're on the clock. Oh, it's awesome. Appreciate you setting time aside for us as well. That's awesome.
Yeah, no worries. Time zones worked out because the SFU one was Pacific time, and then I know y'all are 3 hours ahead, so
yeah,
just worked out.
Did you go in person?
It was remote as well, which made it even better.
Hey, Soroush.
So.
Hello. It's going well. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. It's cold. The weather's getting really bad over here.
It's the weather.
Same here
right now.
All right, Nadia's there. I guess we're getting all the people in. Perfect.
Hi, Nadia.
Hey, Nadia.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's your day been going?
Just been like very chill.
Abhay, are you having issues? You could let us know in chat if you're. Oh, there we are. Hey, Abhay, how's it going?
Yay!
How are you guys?
Doing well. Glad you could make it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just waiting on Professor Yuan. But how's everyone finding the Designathon so far? I think we've hit like halfway mark. Pure silence.
No, so far so good. Honestly,
I've
enjoyed it. Yeah, no. Did my first session today and listened to some of the workshops. It's been very helpful and lovely. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, and Professor Yuan is here. Okay, awesome. So we can get started with the session. So thank you so much for joining us today, to our mentors and speakers, and welcome everyone to the design panel session for McMaster Design League's UI UX Designathon 2023. So in this session, we've compiled some of the questions that you participants want to ask our panelists. So what we'll do is we'll ask a question, and all the panelists will have an opportunity to respond to each question. And we'll go in an order. So the first question would be like, introduce yourself, your role and company. So first up, Perry, would you like to get started?
Yeah, what's up, everyone? I'm Perry. I am a product designer over at Discord. What were the other points again? That's about all for me. I'll pass it on to the next one.
Kavya, I think you're on mute. Anyways, I'll go next. So my name is Soroush. I am a product designer. I work at EA.
Awesome. And Jordan?
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan. I'm a product designer based in Vancouver, West Coast, Best Coast. I work for Jostle. We're an employee success platform, and we have customers all around Canada, US, and Europe.
And Professor Yuan, if you want to go.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Irene, and I'm currently a professor at McMaster University, and I have worked as a UX designer for like a design consulting company called like IE Collaborative. It's based in Chicago, as well as like LexisNexis.
Awesome. And Abhay?
Yep. Hey, so I'm Abhay. I currently work as a product designer at a company called Growth School. It's based out of India, but I am right now in Canada itself. So yeah.
And last but not least, Nadia.
Yeah, my name is Nadia. I'm also in Toronto. I am a product designer for a company called Chorus Entertainment on the global news team. So I've been there for almost 2 years now.
Awesome. Right on. So, yeah, we can just hop right into it. And anyone else in the chat, all the viewers, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A box. And Kavya or myself will toss them over to our wonderful speakers. So, first of all here, for Perry, I'll just go in order and call you guys on, and you can respond to the questions. So the first one here is, why did you choose to pursue a career in UI and UX? We'll start with, Perry.
Yeah, I did it because I liked making stuff. I enjoyed architecture for the academic scene, but didn't really enjoy how the industry was and wanted to make things faster. And figured that tech was the perfect place to do that. And that's kind of why I just jumped right in.
Awesome. And Soroush?
Yes, from my side, I volunteered back in 2001. And within 3 months, I fell in love with this thing that called web design and flash design, which was a thing at the time. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And just because I've been told I can't draw in the traditional sense, this is my vengeance. I can do the thing in design. So yeah.
Sweet. And Jordan?
Yeah, so my journey is a little bit different. So I actually started school studying videography. So when I did my first video internship, I worked on the provincial government's implementation of digital healthcare records across BC. And to me, that was my turning point. Instead of communicating these ideas and designs, to actually implementing the designs myself. So that's how I went from video to UX.
It's awesome. And Irene?
Right. I guess I'm not technically like in UI UX like industry, but before when I was like first started like getting into like UX design and then everything, I think it was like back in 2007, 13 or something. It was like a Windows when Microsoft first like released their like Windows 8 like platform, and then like I upgraded like my laptop like the first time they released it, and then the user experience was like horrible. It's just like I want to make things better, so that's why I was like started like looking into UX design and then started like learning more about it.
That's super awesome. You want something done, might as well do it yourself. Abhay?
Yep. So I have been into creative things like from last 8 years. Started actually with like cinematography, making short films, and other things. But I eventually pursued engineering because I was inclined towards coding more. Uh, just within a year, I realized that's not for me, and I wanted to kind of have a mix, like be around tech, but also have my creativity like you be useful, and that's where I felt like UX played the right role. And to be honest, I just got the right mentors at the right time to make me grow, and yeah, that's it.
And Nadia?
Yeah, so in university, I studied communications, but I always found a way to incorporate design in the co-ops and internships that I did. So, in terms of like how I got into UX, I did a co-op at an agency here in Toronto like almost 4 years ago. That was also when COVID like first started, and I realized like marketing social media like wasn't for me. So I chatted with whoever was in the UX department at that agency, sorry, I was in. And from there on, like I had to fly back to Vancouver because I went to the same university as Jordan. I took like the next 8 months in like self-teaching myself UX. Otherwise, like I have external reasons why I also got into UX and design. Yeah, I really enjoyed making things on like Photoshop, Illustrator, just really like having things, bringing things come to life is why I enjoy this profession.
Awesome. Thank you for like sharing a little bit of the background behind how you got to this point in your career, I guess. So just a question from the chat from Aaron. What are some features you look most for in UI UX designs? So Perry?
I'm not too sure what you mean by features in this context. I'm gonna assume. Yeah, honestly, I might need more clarifying information to answer that because it's, yeah.
Would anyone else like to take that question? If not, we can pause for Aaron to, I guess, add some more details and move on to another one. Come back later. Okay, sounds good. So, like throughout the course of your career, have you had a favorite project? Like, do you want to like talk about some of your favorite experiences? Perry first again.
Yeah. I'll go first. All right. I guess favorite project is this one's near and dear to my heart, but it's probably my first like design competition project that I finally did well on. I think it's kind of the project I hold close because it's like where my career first kind of kickstarted. Like the competition before, I literally came dead last, and then the next one I didn't come dead last, so that was cool. And then I redesigned it two times, so it's like it's very familiar to me, and it's still on my portfolio to this day, even though it's like 3 years old. So yeah, that's my favorite project.
Okay, for me, it was working with the Bank of BMO back in 2016, where we were digitizing all their bank forms, which were the size of the BMO tower, and helping them store them on the digital library, building them platforms that were accessible. I was pretty proud of that we were able to give elderly people who can't come to the branch every day a platform where they can do their everyday banking at the very least with ease. So yeah, I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah, one of the projects that really stands out for me was my first UX internship. So this was back in 2018, working for the city of Vancouver, and I worked on what was called their Plan Your Vote platform. So I helped to redesign this flow and microsite that was helping people plan all the candidates they want to vote for. Inside this planning website, they could print it out, and then it's going to be in the exact same order as the ballot. And one of the things that really stood out to me was conducting accessible user testing. So that was my first dip into being able to user test with people who had low mobility and who were blind. And it was super eye-opening compared to design school, where everyone who I worked with could like see and had the same mobility as I did. So it was just super eye-opening to see how adaptive and assistive technology works.
Am I the next? Okay. So I think like the one project is probably not saying like this like the most like most proud of, but I guess also like the first I would definitely like remember and then forever. It's like the first like real kind of like UX design project when I first like entered the industry after school was like FedEx. So that time we were doing like trying to redesign their like small business customer like onboarding experience, and the really like reason where it's like I probably will remember forever is the chance we got to spend like doing field trips and then really to see like different like small business customers and then see like what their like working environment is, and then like how like what are like the business and the things they are passionate about, and then trying to figure out like opportunities to make like the experience better for them. Yeah.
So for me, one of the recent projects that I did that has been really, really challenging and really like dear to my heart. So I just giving a context. So the company that I work with, Growth School, is an ed tech company. So we have a lot of courses and generally we sell them. So and people consume the courses on our platform. And generally in ed tech, the platforms are called LMS. That's called Learning Management System. So our learning management system, like I am one of the founding members of the company, so I was the only one to make it. But it's been like a year and a half. It was quite old. We got a lot of new insights. So me and two more interns, we redesigned the whole thing within like 2.5 months with a sprint, and that was crazy. So yeah, that was amazing.
The project that I am like most proud of is when I joined Global News like almost 2 years ago. So at the time, I joined when the overall like I want to say graphic design team, because they were in charge of like initiating and creating the visual direction of like this new branding. So it was my task as a UX product designer to make a UI kit entirely from scratch for this redesign. I got to spearhead that, educate our developers on best practices, how to incorporate components on their code, and this project did get postponed quite a few times because of internal and external reasons. But once we launched it last October, like the whole um, it entirely paid off, and it was great, especially seeing this project live to like millions of Canadians all over the country. And global is pretty big out west, so also was um really rewarding to see like my family watch a news station that I grew up with and see that like I was like part of this project.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear about all your projects and what they mean to you guys. Thank you so much. And we have clarification here from Aaron. He says, I meant to communicate what makes a good user-centered design. I guess in terms of like the actual design. So like, yeah, he has no experience, but yeah, he just wants to, I guess, like what exactly you guys look for in a like user-centric UI UX design. If you'd like to start, Perry.
I'm probably going to give a really bad answer to this. Because, I'm just going to say that like you should design something that is centered around the user. Like think deeply about the problem that they're facing and think critically about it. And this is the whole conversation about like empathy or whatnot. But like you when you're solving a problem, you need to think about you need to actually think about the problem versus trying to solve a problem with like a checklist of things. Because sometimes like you don't need to do certain things to solve certain problems. So yeah, not the best answer, but an answer.
I don't know what I would look for in a user-centered, because it's hard when I don't know who are the users and like, but I would say there's a difference between a UX designer and a graphic designer. Maybe to my mind, a graphic designer relies on their expertise to come up with the design, the final solution, as opposed to a UX designer who would sit down with the users, gathers information, makes an informed or an evidence-based approach. To me, those are the differences. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, just to build on Soroush's point, I think making a decision here needs to be done. Sorry, let me rephrase this. So to make a good user-centered design, it needs to come down to your design principles and your design decisions, and also as well look at the data that you have from stakeholders. There's no specific checklist for doing this. You need to look at internally within your design team and company and kind of your user data that you have to see like if you're hitting a point that's actually making their process easier. That's kind of how I would say what makes a good user-centered design. It's really hard to give a 100% answer or tell all.
I don't have like many things to add to it, but I guess like what like Soroush and also like Jordan was talking about before is like it's really like a process, like looking into like what's like the thinking, what's like all the decision like behind like the design itself, rather than like something you can tell like right away as like looking at the design is like from like the look of it. And then there is like a lot of like different like constraints. It's not sometimes like the UX designer does have to like juggle a lot like things as they're like working on a good design. So yeah, and then also like as Perry has talked about, like empathy is one good thing, but I mean it's hard to tell it from like the look of like certain design. It's something I guess will like the real like user when they use it, they will like have more stuff like to say about it.
Yeah, I think everybody already answered it pretty well. So for me, it's more about getting to the root problem, because more or less users, it's true. Like users will say something, do something, and it's all about that. So it's better to have your research like really good. You need to make sure whatever you're solving is to the point. Getting feedback and all of this does affect your design. So design can't be like pointed on a single thing. It has to be like pieces of everything together. So yeah.
I think I think I might get this away in our later talk of Jordan and I tonight. But when I think of like user centered as well, hopefully this answers your question. But I also invite like all voices to be heard. So as a designer, also considering like the developers, product managers, leadership that I work with. So I like to say that like when it comes to like the term user centered itself, taking the perspective of everyone's voices, I like to say that a key difference like between a junior and a senior designer is, let's say like you're doing a design critique, and as a junior designer you get like told from your developers like, oh, we're not able to implement these designs. And when I was like still kind of junior, I would get pretty defensive over that and think that, oh, maybe the designers are just lazy. This is like the easiest thing that they could like implement. But now, as like someone who's transitioning more into like mid-level senior, that when I hear that from my developers that we're not able to implement this in the design, then I now like embrace those constraints, because in the real world, when you work in a cross-functional team, like you're like it will provide realistic expectations when it comes to a product that is going to be shipped out to like hundreds or like thousands of users. So when I think of the term user-centered, I also think of like the perspectives that I also have to consider.
Yeah, it's definitely important. Like, we're all going to be working in cross-functional teams when we enter industry. So it's really important that we learn how to collaborate with people and work together. So for the next question, do you have any tips on how to prepare for interviews and how to prepare a portfolio?
Second part of the question is pretty big, but let's just kind of narrow it down for just interviews. So give context into how usually design interviews are structured. It's usually a big portfolio presentation, whether it's like a 45-minute to an hour type of thing, and you're usually presenting in front of a panel of other designers and maybe a few cross-functional people. And then it'll be followed by some behavioral interview. So like your typical, like, tell me about a time where you did this. And then maybe one or two technical ones. So it's like either a whiteboard exercise, take-home exercise, something along the lines of that. I would say the interview process, you should focus your 80% of your effort on that portfolio review. I think in the past, like if you can nail that presentation aspect of it and really drive home and show like your ability to design in your work, then like the decision for the most part has already been made, and the rest is just kind of them asking you clarifying questions about your work. So I guess in preparing for your interview, focus on your portfolio presentation a lot.
Just building on top of what Perry just said, he broke it down so well. He was unbelievable. I was going to say something like, just like anything else, 10,000 hours will make you an expert. So do as many interviews as you can, even if you don't aim to get the job. Don't tell them I said this, but just so you can practice the same answers over and over again, so that when the right one comes, you can knock it out of the park with the same structure that you're used to.
Yeah. So on the first point, always do practice interviews if you can. If you're a student and if you have a co-op department, do practice interviews with your co-op coordinator. Take advantage of that while you're a student. Also, look into mentorship platforms like ADP List and Bobatux. They both do portfolio review practice and practice mock interviews. So again, like the more practice you get, the more easier it's going to get for you. And then for your portfolio, just get constant feedback, and less is more. So cut as much content as you can. When I'm reviewing a portfolio, sometimes I only spend 2 to 3 minutes on it, and I don't want to read an essay. Otherwise, I'll just immediately click off, unless I'm going really in depth for like a candidate interview. But from initial part, just less is more is always better.
I guess like adding on to what everyone has like talked about, I think like trying to demonstrate like a range of like stuff you have done before would be a good idea. I mean, also depending on like who you are like submitting your application to, but like demonstrating like both like the skills you think or like different like design, a variety of like stuff. So like mobile like website, and then like other like kind of like devices or like platforms, as well as like I know I have been it's a while ago, but I have been asked like questions such as like, what is your role like in a project? So like if it's like team project, so like things like that, do make sure you have communicate like collaboration or like communication, and then like specify your role. I always have like a like role breakdown like slide in my presentation.
Yeah, I think everybody said everything, but I'm just gonna add on to the portfolio part of it, especially. So even I struggled like a lot for making my first ever portfolio. It's like what to write. It's just too overwhelming. There's not a single structure. It just the main thing that you should focus on each of your projects when explaining is how you did it, why you did it, uh, and eventually what impact if it created. So and focus on the why a lot, because that's eventually your like that's the UX designer you want to become. Like why did you do it? What reason did it took? So just focus on these parts. Those are enough. For everything else, everybody else covered up. So yeah.
I think like a kind of a really uncommon tip that I saw quite recently from like a Slack channel was for the portfolio. So number one, I'll also agree that like less is more. I also believe in show don't tell. I think it's like quite related, but the other point that I'll give is I saw this feedback on a Slack channel that said aim to not really like use like jargon or buzzwords in your portfolio because surprisingly when you submit your portfolio out to these companies, a lot of like the majority of your users are going to be recruiters, and even though the design hiring manager will also get to take a look at your portfolio, some of those jargon buzzwords might not translate to them depending on the next industry that you hope to transition into. So dumbing it down is like what I've been trying to do lately.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, I think that's super important, Nadia, as well. I think it's a big like miscommunication a lot of people take on with having to add on jargon and all these kind of things, certain buzzwords, and it sort of just overcomplicates the whole process. Yeah, and I have a question here from Kyun in the chat. Do you have any tips on how to find good mentors? If you'd like to go ahead, Perry.
My tip is like try not to force it. Like sometimes you don't even need a mentor. I'd say for the most part, people just starting out, like the harsh truth is like people aren't ready for mentorship. Like you need to get to a certain point where you understand design fundamentals first before you like try to seek out a mentor. And I think in my past experience and my mentors' past experiences, it's never been like I'm actively seeking out a mentor. They just kind of stumbled across me when I was naturally trying to like figure out where I was in my career. So I think in terms of like if you want to make finding a mentor a bit easier, like get your work to a certain standard first so that it motivates professionals to actually want to mentor you. Like mentors don't want to teach you like principles of visual design. They want to help nudge you in the right direction in terms of where you are in your very specific career like path. Like are you getting interviews but struggling to get the offer, or are you just flat out not getting any like replies back? So it depends, and I think it's just something you can't force, but focus on the work first.
Yeah, just building on top of that, as somebody who you would want to mentor is somebody who shows you passion, right? Shows you passion and dedication, regardless of the money, regardless of what it is. They're just in it to win it. This is what they want out of life. And you want to give them a helping hand. So if you become that sort of person, everybody would love to mentor you, I would say. And you never give up, right? So because this is it.
As a designer who does mentorship for juniors and new grad designers, to me, what's important is that you have an intention when you book a mentorship session. Just don't come in with a loose guideline. To me, it's really important that the 30 minutes is a two-way street. Like I want to help you, but you need to help me as well with what you want to get out of it, right? Like if it's just too loose, you're not going to get any value at the end of the day. But if you come in with 1 or 2 points that you want intention on, I think that is what makes mentorship good. And then finding them is just try to find someone within the specific area that you want to get feedback on.
Yeah, also like building on top of like what Jordan said, the I guess it's like being specific about like what you need like help with, and then also that probably also means like you probably like might need like a couple like mentors on different things. as people might have like stressed in like different directions. So yeah, so like think about like what do you actually need help with, and then like reach out to people with like the specifics, and then ask for help.
Yep. I think again, I love the points that Perry and Irene put up. So in terms of finding, for me, I'm just gonna give you like what I did. It's unconventional. You might not be able to do it, but what I did is, when I just started out, I I was looking for people who can help me in any way, and the best way for me to learn was to get their stories out. What I did, I started a podcast. I started reaching out to them just to do a podcast, and I have done like at least hundreds of people of podcasts, and I have got stories from amazing folks. Uh, for me, it was the networking that I did. It's the stories that I got out, and that's how they helped me. Whenever I had anything, I went to any specific one that I felt would be able to answer me best. For example, one of my friends works at IDEO, and so I know he's really good at UX research. So if I am stuck anywhere in my life around UX research, I just ping him like, how do you deal with it? Like anybody else. So that really helped for me. But right now, when I at least started ADPList or any platform like this, these never existed. So now you are better, or like better reach for these mentors. Just shoot them a message with the purpose, and don't be like, as Perry said, don't be forceful. Try to have some like, just you don't want to be like, yeah, this person works at Google, yeah, let's shoot him a message. Like it should be more around, you read their work, you saw their work, you liked it, what do you liked about it. Just be more personal, just put some efforts into, if you really want something from them, you should put some efforts in, and something's going to come back. And same with Ediple is, just go with the purpose out, and yeah, you will find the right fit.
It's been a while since I did like any coffee chat or like portfolio review. I think it's like it's surprising how much like not like trying to throw any shade, but I do have like seen a lot of aspiring UX designers or those like looking to get like resume or portfolio feedback like come in the call and just completely like blank out. Maybe they want to talk to someone, which is fine, but what I do in like my personal Calendly link is that I have kind of like a short questionnaire about like why, like what is the purpose of you, like what are you trying to get out of this call, what does your ideal like session look like, and like what are some like deliverables or like artifacts you want to present during like a 30-minute call with me. And lastly, if you do decide to look for a mentor, like for me, I have some personal values that I stick towards. So as someone who is like POC and like a woman, I like to find other UX designers or leaders that are also POC and such or women. For me, like the reason why I do that is because like they have like, or sorry, let me like just backtrack. The reason why I intentionally seek out like PLC or women UX designers is that I'm more comfortable like approaching them, and perhaps they have gone through like similar experiences that I'm still trying to navigate towards, that they could share to me when we chat together.
Yeah, mentorship is truly helpful, like no matter what industry you're pursuing, but it really only benefits you if you go into it with knowing what you want to come out with after, and having goals ready. So thank you so much for that. And then our next question is from Rehan. So in your experience, what is one hard truth about UX design that newcomers should brace themselves for? And because Perry is away, he can go last, and we'll start with Soroush.
Be prepared to face rejections. So no matter where you are, we talked about constraints a little bit. You always want to design the ideal experience, and guess what? that can't be done either due to timeline, budget, coding, anything constrained. So be prepared to hear no a lot and never give up. That's the other side of it.
Yeah, my answer is very similar. Be prepared for tech debt. They don't teach you that in school. And like, yes, like you can design the best UI or the best experience in the world, but timelines are a thing. Like something that's going to take 8 months, your PM will probably say, well, what's the MVP that we can deliver in 2 months? So just be prepared for that and learn how to scope out your design from MVP to final release.
Yeah, I have similar answers. I guess it's like a lot of like implementation of your work does depend on like other people like that you work with, and then also like constraints from like the product, the general like vision of the product and everything. So things will get like frustrated. And then that's also why I'm not like doing that. One of the reasons I'm not doing that right now. So yeah, but like those are like the things to look out for.
For me, there are two things that I'm going to talk about. One is like collective of what everybody said till now. So there will be a lot of rejections or there will be a lot of no's. A lot of times you can fight back, so be ready to defend your decisions. That's like so like when you get into industry, you will learn how to fight with your PM a lot, and like that's one thing that you have to like fight for your things that you have made, the decision that you took. Uh, and the second thing is more around the work that you do. At least where I come from, because I've worked in startups, and I there will be a lot of time you do some work in very tight deadlines, and it might not get shipped. There's ton of things that are gonna happen, and just be ready to cope up with it. It's gonna happen, uh, and that's how things are fast paced. Yeah.
So in regards to the question, it relates to like Jordan and I's talk later today. So I don't want to give too much out, but I'll shift gears a bit and like talk towards more of like the corporate world. One hard truth that like kind of like really hit me in my first year as like someone who was transitioning into design and now like working at a company. Um, One hard truth that you like designers should all be aware of is the possible like so for I'll speak on like the first company that I worked with, that it's rare that your first company is like your dream company. That's not to discount the organization that you work for, because I have learned like a lot of valuable lessons and have met like so many like talented hardworking people at my last organization that I still keep in touch with. I think just to like allude in the current state of things in the world right now is always have a backup and just be prepared for like the worst case scenario with all these like layoffs. I don't know if there's been any like company acquisitions lately because of like rising interest rates, but just always prepare for the worst case scenario. Have like a support system because those things are really tough and also traumatic to process. And yeah, that is pretty much all I'll reveal for this question.
Yeah, huge plus one there. Even if your first job did happen to be your dream company, for me it was. I thought I was kind of set from when I got hired at Google, and then even at Google you're gonna face like huge amounts of mountains you have to climb over, things not getting built, my entire project getting shut down, which sucked. Like at the end of the day, like at least they pay you. In their case, they also fed me. But I think I'm switching the context to like trying to get hired into a job. The harsh truth here is that like it's hard, and it takes a lot of work. And I think another harsh truth is that like not everyone can do it. Like you genuinely have to be really passionate about making things, and it's not something you can just like whip together in 2 weeks and like attend a boot camp for 3 months for. Like it genuinely takes a lot of work on top of that education in order to be able to stand out. And I think right now is a time where you have to stand out, and you can't just be like okay at this. Companies are getting more intentional, budgets are tighter, and so we as candidates need to kind of adapt to that. Or like the worst thing you could do is like quote unquote wait for the market to settle down, because like civil economics, like we don't know, no one knows how the market will behave. So it's either you get ready for it or you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your answers, everyone. And yeah, I feel like with the market being an ever-changing industry, like you can never really tell. Which also stems into my next question. But how, like, yeah, so I have a question for the panelists and myself. How do you all stay up to date with the latest UI UX design trends and practices, as well as how important is it to like keep up and like continuously learn in your fields? If Perry, you can go ahead.
Yeah. In terms of staying up to date, I personally like to follow agency work, particularly like Instrument, Work and Co, whatever else is out there, just to see what cracked stuff they're working on, and then see which things kind of trickle down to like the general big companies. And it's always important to stay learning in your field. Like like products change, you know, company strategy changes, so you have to kind of adapt to that. So I would say it's very important.
Yeah, from my side, I go on YouTube or other social media. I follow designers. I follow podcasts. I go on blogs. I try to stay up to date as much as possible. But I do also want to emphasize, as much as trends are important, fundamentals that never change are also very important. So getting the basics right of HTML, of CSS, of JavaScript, of accessibility, that'll never harm you.
Yeah, for design trends, just like Perry said, you can look to agencies like Work and Co. I also look at agencies in Vancouver. But to me, where I continue to grow my skills is in development and product management, because as a designer, you talk to developers and product managers every day. So being able to, in a sense, speak their language, it just helps to foster it helps to build your understanding of the problems that they face and how you can relate to that as a designer and how that could even influence your design. So that's where I like to put my additional time in.
Right. So I guess I probably did something like similar to what other people talked about. So like social media and then podcast specifically. So there was like some like a couple of, like specific UX design podcasts I have been like following along, as well as like a more general like product related like podcasts. So I think A16Z was like one I followed before. I still listen to them sometimes, but just like some more getting to the idea of like product thinking and then like everything. And then that I do rely a lot on my designer friends to get a good understanding of like what are like the latest trends and what are they like talking about. Yeah.
For me, very practically speaking, it has been two things. And others, obviously, everything I do some in some or other way. As I said, I do my own podcast, so I talk to a lot of folks, then I get to know a lot of things. Similarly, like Irene said, I like if you are in an industry, you have or you are able to make a lot of friends in the industry as well. So it's a little easier that way. And other two things that I specifically do is like read Medium a lot. Like people put out amazing case studies, how they did stuff. You can read that, learn from it a lot. And the best thing, at least for me, it's diverse. So, for example, when I was working in an Indian company, I used to read case studies of everywhere around the world. So it gives me very diverse backgrounds on how people take care of their design problems. Uh, when it and also the second thing is when it comes to more around creativity or visual side of things, at least for me, it's more around anything creative. And some don't like it, some do. Like I go to Pinterest a lot. Like try to take inspiration as much as I can wherever I can, not just in apps, anywhere else. Lastly, it's around Mobin. I don't know if people know Mobin. It's a place where you get a lot of big companies are listed, and they all full their flows have been listed there. You can check that out. I do that a lot. At least when I'm either making my own project or either working in the industry as well. That's a really good tool for me. So yeah, these things kind of keep me updated.
I'll keep my answer short, but if your company has like we call it a development budget, or like a learning education budget, something along those lines, highly recommend to take advantage of it. For our budget, like so far, I've looked into like UX books that I want to purchase. Really great like return on investment. I really find that UX books are just underrated. I also do, yeah, I look at Medium articles and newsletters as well, but nothing beats like a well-written book. So yeah.
Thank you for those tips on how to stay up to date with like UI UX trends. And then our next question, also from Kian, is like, would you say you have work-life balance, or are you constantly in a high-stress work environment? I guess maybe also repeat like where you're working so we have some context.
It's a fun question. It depends. I'm giving the most designer response. It depends. Depends where industry you work in. Depends what company you work at. Depends what team in the company you work at. At Google, I would say generally like the work-life balance was pretty good. Like people respected your barriers after hours, so that you don't get messages at like 10 p.m. Discord's a little bit different. In the fact that like we're moving fast. We want to build things quick and we want to make money. So like transparently speaking, I'm spending a lot of more design time after hours. Just a lot of meetings that get in the way of my heads down time. So I need to compensate for that after hours. But you know what? I think that as a junior, like you're young, you're starting out. There is kind of like that stereotype where like junior people should be working more hours. And as you get more senior, that kind of settles down because you have like family and like actual adult stuff to care about. So yeah, it depends is my answer.
So I didn't personally up until recently. One of the things I found to be super helpful is that when I'm currently living in Toronto, my client right now, EA, Electronic Arts, happens to work in Pacific hours time. So I'm always 3 hours ahead of them. So my noon is their 9 a.m. That means I have all morning to do my workout, do my meditation, all the healthcare stuff that I need to do to take care of myself. And then in the afternoon, I work. So I would recommend something like that for yourselves.
My answer is also it depends, but it depends on the company. So when I worked at SAP, I was working with a team in Bangalore. So they're 13 and a half hours ahead of Vancouver. So obviously that meant 7 a.m. meetings or 9 p.m. meetings because you can't avoid that. Because like when they're awake, I'm sleeping. When I'm awake, they're sleeping. Now I work at a startup. So I'm the design lead for 2 teams at the moment. So I do still manage to find a good work-life balance. One thing that I've done as a full-timer now and respecting my time a bit more is I automate my work notifications to go off at 6 p.m. and it completely shuts off my work profile on my phone. So no one can get in contact with me essentially. So it's just about setting barriers and with your time because that's important.
Yeah, I guess I can't talk about like my work-life balance now because I don't have one now. But when I was like when I used to work in industry, I think it's one more thing. That might be something hard to do as you're like junior or just like enter the industry. But as you kind of like have more experience, you need to be like protective about your own like lifetime. So that is like you. So like at what like Jordan said, like trying to make sure you're off your like message, like instant message, like app, and then or like emails when you should be like off work. And then if you are like talking to like teams that are like in a different like time zone, trying to like schedule time off, like to compensate like for like those time that's being taken. So yeah, but I said like, this might be something difficult to do just when you started, but trying as you have like more experience, probably just like paying more attention to that.
For me, as everyone said, like it's that totally depends on the company and the kind of team that you are in. So, but at least for me, when I was at growth school, which is pretty young, like at least when I started, I was like the fifth person to join in the company, and then right now I think we are at 180-ish something, and I still remember when I started out, I used to work like, I'm not even lying, I used to work 12 hours, at least 12 hours a day, because that's when we were building stuff, and like I I knew that's gonna happen and I was into it, and it was stressful, but eventually it paid off. Like we did got like $5 million of funding from Sequoia, and so we did it did pay off to us. But as everybody else said, as at least I grew in my career, as we grew as a company, it's settled down now. It's pretty good. So yeah, it totally depends on the company, which product, which people, how's your manager. It depends on a lot of factors, how stressful it can become or not. Yeah.
I'll give more of like tips on like work-life balance, or if you're I think it's inevitable that at some point in your career you're going to be working in like high stress work environments. So kind of like the tips that I'll give is that look into like your company's like work benefits. I would say like I'm very fortunate we're at like Chorus. We have like unlimited like mental health benefits, so I use that to like see a psychotherapist like every month. Also taking into like massage therapy, like your physical and mental health like triumphs like everything. So that is like my absolute like tip I would give, because UX and like the corporate world is just like high stress, and at the end of the day you want to help like um protect and take care of yourself before you reach like really bad burnout.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I think I really like the term that Irene and Nadia both just used, the word protect. I feel like it's very important in a very fast-moving industry to protect our souls deep down, is because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? And I have, well, we're a little short on time, so hopefully not our last question, but might be. Someone wrote, "What do you think are the most important skills and qualities to be successful UI UX designer?"
I think I kind of touched on this early on the earlier questions, but when you're junior, you just got to be able to follow instructions and execute very well on the instructions. As you get more senior, you're going to have to think more about stakeholder management, team leadership, and yeah. So that's just a quick summary.
I think a combination of having great communication skills, both verbal and written, as well as great technical skills, and having empathy, right? You have to have empathy for your users, for your stakeholders, for everyone involved.
Yeah, I was going to say empathy and emotional intelligence. You're working with a lot of people at the end of the day as a designer, with PMs, developers, even the CEO. So being able to understand from all perspectives is extremely important to me in becoming a better UX designer.
Yeah, I think this question probably would like show up like in some of like the interviews I know about. But yeah, so I have like similar answers. I think like communication and then like empathy are like the most important part. But I mean, you also do have to have like a strong like technical or like design skills. But like communication and empathy are like really like the skills that would take you like further along your career.
Yeah, I think everybody already covered it. The only one thing I want to add up is presentation. So even if you design like the best of the best thing, if and you get a seat on the table and you are not able to present it in the best way that you did it, it it won't make the effect that it could with it. So yeah.
For me, I'll give a soft skill. Is being like a team player. So for example, like all throughout the summer, we worked on like this project that it got like delayed like a lot of times, or we're still getting like word on other like other team members that are still like that are also involved in this project. So I would say being a great like team player is really important, because sometimes like moments like there are some things that you don't want to hear, and it can be like quite frustrating. So being a good team player, being flexible, adaptable, and also, as everyone said, being empathetic also with your team members as well. So yeah.
Freezing.
Yeah, I think Kavya's having some technical difficulties. I think we're good. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, panelists, for the answers. It's very valuable information there. And on top of everything, I appreciate the time you guys set aside. This is honestly just super, super dope. This was honestly like a great experience overall. And I hope to reach out to a couple of you guys, and I hope the viewers will do that as well.
Yeah, and to our participants, if you have any further questions, definitely reach out to our panelists on Discord, or feel free to book a coffee chat with them over Calendly. And good luck with your designing. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, y'all. Take care.